It has been an unprecedented night in Canadian history, with two men claiming the authority to be Prime Minister making their pitches directly to you. But now it is up to the Governor-General to use her role under our Constitution and choose which of them should rule the country, or whether there will be another election only 7 weeks after the last one. And there are some late developments on the timing of all of that Mike Armstrong can tell us from outside of the Governor-General's residence. Mike.
Well, Kevin, the official word came just a short while ago. The Prime Minister will be coming here to Rideau Hall tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, making the trip from just across the street at 24 Sussex. Now, the Governor-General is home, having arrived home from Europe about 3 hours ago. Now, she comes home to the biggest constitutional conundrum in more than 80 years. The Prime Minister is expected to ask her to prorogue Parliament, basically shut it down for almost 2 months. Now, that's something that's happened before, but never this quickly after an election. What's never happened before is no Governor-General has ever refused to prorogue. Now, there are constitutional experts on both sides of the debate. In fact, the Governor-General has her own constitutional experts, and you can expect she's been speaking to them already. There were protests here today, some yesterday, more planned, and now that official word's out that Harper's coming, you can expect some spectators here tomorrow. But basically, there's a lot of pressure on Michaëlle Jean's shoulders. This is somebody who's, well, usually worrying about parties and ceremonies, but this position must feel a whole lot less ceremonial tonight. Kevin?
Indeed, a very important one. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. And if you were watching about an hour ago, you heard the Prime Minister and Liberal leader Stéphane Dion's competing pitches for power. Let's begin with our Ottawa Bureau Chief, Jacques Bourbeau, who listened to the Prime Minister's speech. And Jacques, what case did he make?
Well, Kevin, it was a very short statement to the nation, and it was a very concise pitch to Canadians. Really, he made three essential points. First of all, that he argued that he is taking steps to build a plan to help Canada's economy. He also pledged that he is going to do with everything within his power to remain in power and block this coalition government. And he also spent a fair amount of time trying to demonize this coalition, saying that Mr. Dion and Mr. Layton have done a deal with the separatist devils.
Let me be very clear. Canada's government cannot enter into a power-sharing coalition with a separatist party. At a time of global economic instability, Canada's government must stand unequivocally for keeping the country together. At a time like this, a coalition with separatists cannot help Canada. And the opposition does not have the democratic right to impose a coalition with the separatists they promised voters would never happen.
Now, what's also interesting is what wasn't in the Prime Minister's address to the nation. There was no olive branch to the opposition, although someone joked with me today that Harper would need an olive tree to try to defuse this crisis. As well, there was no acknowledgement from the Prime Minister that it was his actions and the actions of his finance minister in the economic statement of last week that really precipitated this crisis. Kevin?
Well, we know he's going to go to the Governor-General's now tomorrow morning and inform her what we understand to be the very first time of what his opinion of this is. I guess he only really has a couple of choices here, right? He can ask her to, shut the House down or maybe call an election.
I think he's going to go for the first option. The immigration minister today was saying that, in fact, he thinks that this Parliament needs a timeout, and that's exactly what Stephen Harper will be asking for, I believe, tomorrow morning, asking Michaëlle Jean to prorogue Parliament, in essence, shut it down for a period of time so that basically Harper gets a bit of a reprieve and can try to continue to convince Canadians that he deserves to remain in power.
All right, Jacques, it's going to be another busy day. Thank you for hanging with it all day today. Well, now to the opinions of the opposition parties who came together this week to propose another way to govern Canada, with a combined Liberal NDP government supported by the Bloc Québécois for 18 months. And Peter Harris was listening to Stéphane Dion's address. And Peter, what was the essence of his case?
Well, Kevin, once we heard it, and it was a cold wait at this listening post as the temperatures drop here in Ottawa, once we heard it, it took them a while to get it to air. He actually made a point that this is all about cooperation, this is all about compassion, and that's exactly what the Canadian economy needs right now to get off the ground. They are willing to come through with a package within a week of getting into power. This vote will happen. This vote that will bring down the government will happen, and once they're in power, a stimulus package will come into place that will get the economy rolling. Now, he also took some shots at the Prime Minister, saying he's clinging to power at any cost, and that's really what we're seeing here, and that's why there's so much wrangling going on here on Parliament Hill. And here's what he had to say.
We offer a better way. We say, settle it now, and let's get to work on the people's business. A vote is scheduled for next Monday. Let it proceed, and let us all show maturity in accepting the result with grace and the larger task of serving Canadians in mind.
Now, Kevin, one thing that has to be considered here is the Liberals are in the middle of a leadership race. There's a lot of internal dynamics, so they're critical to whether or not this coalition can actually take over power smoothly. There's a lot of Liberals that are saying that maybe this isn't the best thing, but right now, at this point, it seems as though this coalition doesn't have any cracks in it, so they're going forward, and they have their proposal on the Governor-General's desk right now.
Yeah, they seem to be ahead on the paperwork of this. Anyway, thank you very much. Peter Harris outside on Parliament Hill tonight. Well, after Liberal leader Stéphane Dion's address, the leaders of the NDP and the Bloc, who are both supporting him, spoke as well. And here's some of what they had to say.
Stephen Harper simply refused to act. And now he's trying to turn an economic crisis into a political one. But Stephen Harper has broken his trust with the Canadian people. And because of that, he's lost the confidence of Parliament. He seems to be more interested in his job than in protecting your job.
I would say that Mr. Harper's speech is the same kind of ideas he proposed in the House, he talked about in the House. I would say in a different manner. The words were different. The context also different. It was not the same kind of passion he showed in the House. I know why.